Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling a topic that is absolutely guaranteed to come up in your exams, and that is mastering percentage multipliers. Consider this your ultimate GCSE math study guide. If you're a focused learner trying to streamline your revision and, actually understand the mechanics behind the math, well, you're in exactly the right place.
So, let me ask you this. Do you want to cut your exam calculation time literally in half? How about we stop dropping those silly, frustrating marks on compound interest or reverse percentages and finally unlock those maximum marks? Of course you do. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have a secret weapon that makes some of the most intimidating questions on your paper feel like an absolute walk in the park.
All right, here's today's playbook. We'll start with the power of multipliers, move into increases and decreases, then tackle compound interest and growth. After that, we're mastering reverse percentages and wrapping it all up with top tips for maximum marks.
Let's kick things off with part 1, the power of multipliers, a one-step solution.
Think of a percentage multiplier like a real game changer, a one-step cheat code for your calculator. Most students actually start out using this clunky, time-wasting two-step method. You know the drill, right? You calculate 10%, you find 5%, you add them together, and then you add that whole chunk back to your original amount. Sure, it works, but it eats up your precious exam time and just leaves way more room for arithmetic errors. The sleek, one-step multiplier method changes all of that. You simply take your original amount, multiply it by a single decimal number, and boom, you've got your final answer in a fraction of a second.
So, what exactly is a multiplier? Well, it's really just a percentage written out as a decimal. You build it simply by taking your percentage and dividing it by 100. Finding 42%, your multiplier is 0.42. Finding 5%, it's 0.05. Mastering this really basic fundamental conversion is the bedrock of literally everything we're about to do.
Okay, moving on to part 2. Increases and decreases level up your mechanics.
When you are increasing an amount, you aren't just finding a tiny portion of it. You want the whole original amount plus that extra bit. So think of the original amount as representing 100%. For a 15% increase, you add 15% to 100%, giving you 115%. Divide that by 100, and your multiplier is 1.15. The golden rule you need to remember here is that any multiplier for a percentage increase will always be greater than 1.
Now, on the flip side, for a decrease, you're taking away from that original 100%. Say a shop has a 15% off sale. You subtract 15 from 100, which leaves you paying 85% of the original price. Divide that by 100, and your multiplier is 0.85. So for any percentage decrease, your multiplier is always going to be less than 1.
Okay, warning time. You absolutely have to avoid this massive trap. The most common mistake I see students make is with single-digit percentages. If an exam asks for a 4% increase, you must write 1.04. If you're rushing and you write 1.4, well, you've just calculated a 40% increase and your answer is going to be wildly off. Always double-check those single digits.
Let's step it up a gear with part 3, compound interest and growth, the power of N.
We're stepping into higher-tier territory now. Let's conquer compound interest, depreciation, and repeated changes. These are the boss battles where multipliers truly shine. And this perfectly illustrates why you literally cannot trust your intuition with percentages. If a price goes up by 20% and then a week later it goes down by 20%, you are not back at the original price. Why? Because that 20% decrease was applied to a new, higher price. To find the real change, you have to multiply the multipliers together. A 20% increase is 1.20. A 20% decrease is 0.80. Multiply those together, and you get an overall combined multiplier of 0.96. That means you're left with 96% of the original amount, which is actually a 4% decrease. Crazy, right?
This exact logic leads us directly to the compound interest formula. Instead of working out the interest year by painful year, you just take your original amount, multiply it by your decimal multiplier, and raise that multiplier to the power of n. That n simply stands for the number of years or the number of times the change happens. It beautifully condenses a massive 5-minute calculation into literally a single line on your calculator.
But be careful, because early rounding acts like a virus in your calculations. When you're dealing with compound interest over multiple years, never ever round the numbers in the middle of your working out. If you chop off the decimals in year 1, that error compounds in year 2, and it grows even bigger by year 3. The final answer just ends up being totally incorrect. Keep those long, messy decimals in your calculator all the way through the problem, and only round right at the very end when you write down your final answer.
Next up is Part 4, Mastering Reverse Percentages, Working Backwards.
All right, it's time for the topic that strikes fear into the hearts of so many GCSE students: reverse percentages. This is when the exam gives you the final amount after a change has already happened and asks you to find the original amount. But don't panic. We can break this intimidating calculation down into a super manageable 3-step checklist. First, identify what percentage you're currently looking at. If a price increased by 25% to reach its current value, that current value represents 125%. Second, find the decimal multiplier for that, which is 1.25. Finally, here is the magic step. Instead of multiplying, you just take your final amount and divide it by the multiplier. Division essentially sends you backwards in time to that original amount.
Listen closely, because this is a critical mark-saving examiner's hint. In a high-pressure exam, if you just punch numbers into your calculator and then write down a wrong final answer, you score a flat 0. But if you physically write down final amount divided by 1.25 on your paper, you secure vital method marks even if your finger slips on the calculator. Always, always show your method.
And finally, Part 5. Tips for Maximum Marks, the cheat sheet.
We are entering the final phase of this masterclass, so let's run through a rapid-fire cheat sheet to ensure you lock in every single possible mark on your GCSE paper. First, as we just said, write down your multiplier on the page to secure those method marks. Second, never add successive percentage changes together. Always multiply their multipliers. Third, and actually this trips up so many people, if your answer is in money, format it like money. Your calculator might say 43.7, but you must write 43 pounds and 70 pence with 2 decimal places. Fourth, if asked to express A as a percentage of B, A goes on top, B goes on the bottom. And lastly, always convert the percentage to a decimal before you start doing the heavy math.
Also, you absolutely must know the difference between simple and compound interest. Make sure you read the exam question very, very carefully. Simple interest means a fixed amount is added each time based only on the original principal. Compound interest, on the other hand, means the multiplier is applied to a constantly growing total. Choosing the wrong formula is going to take your answer right from step 1, so I highly recommend highlighting the words simple or compound directly in the exam text.
Here's one final reminder that multipliers make even the strangest, most awkward percentages completely effortless. An exam might try to scare you with something crazy, like a 250% increase. Don't panic. 250% is just 2.5. Add that to your original 1, which, remember, represents your 100%, and your multiplier is simply 3.5. Just multiply your amount by 3.5, and you've entirely conquered the question. It really is that easy.
And there you go. You have officially mastered the multiplier. If you found this study guide helpful and you're feeling a bit more confident about your exam readiness, please hit that like button and subscribe. We're going to be creating tons more structured GCSE math study guides exactly like this one to help you secure those top grades.
I want to leave you with a quick final thought about your overall exam strategy. Now that you've unlocked this incredible speed hack for percentages, what other math boss battles are slowing down your exam calculations? Let me know down in the comments. Keep practicing those multipliers, and I'll see you in the next explainer.